In a battle of extreme stylistic matchups, oftentimes neutralization is the key to the person who's going to be overcoming in that matchup. That's what we saw here. UFC Vegas 85, Nassourdine Imavov versus Roman Dolidze. The Frenchman, Imavov, he got the job done. He shut down Dolidze. He moves up the rankings in the middleweight division, and we got a lot to talk about, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. My name is Derick G, and welcoming me, as always, the Santa Fe Bomber, the New Mexico native himself. AJ, I heard a really interesting metaphor, analogy, I don't know what you want to call it, but they're basically alluding to, and I forgot who they were, so if you do see this, shout out to you. They said Roman Dolidze is essentially Paul Craig with better optics, right? Fantastic grappling, not fantastic striking, and very little offensive wrestling to dictate the fight, to get it to where he needs to be. Would you agree with that? Did you think that was spot on, or am I crazy?
No, it's a pretty apt comparison there, Derick, especially if you look at the way Paul Craig fights. You can tell there's some flaws. And the weird thing about the fight with Dolidze and Imavov, it looked like Dolidze didn't feel comfortable actually getting the fight to the ground until the fourth. So there was definitely some flaws in the game. I see it as an apt comparison for sure.
I think so too, and we're going to talk about all of that good stuff because that was really resonating with me. I was thinking about that all night before we got on here to record. So, folks, lots of fun fights. Welcome back to the Apex. 6 fights on the main card, the whole entire 9. We did some work in the betting perspective, so we're going to jump straight into that. But before we do that, take a look at the scoreboard. We are tied on the week. We're fighting for some shiny belts behind us. If you don't know the story, just know if you win, we win, and vice versa. If we win, you win. That's basically how it goes. So listen, folks, buckle up, subscribe now, and let's talk about a proper recap. All right, AJ. So I got some good news. We did pretty good. We did pretty damn good this week, and I love to hear that. And that's to set the momentum for everything moving forward. So if you won some money, if you hit on our picks, drop a comment below. Let us know. And more importantly, tell a friend to tell a friend, AJ, because this is what we do here, right? So let's jump into it. And my man AJ got a ton of gold on that right side of that screen. So both of us, let's talk about the Bloody Water Podcast consensus picks, AJ. Renato Moicano, Randy Brown, Natalia Silva, Muradov, that fight ended in no contest, so it doesn't count, and Gilbert Urbina. So if we're talking about consensus picks, I said on the pre-show we do pretty damn good. That would be 3-1 right there. Is this a revisionist history looking back for the Gilbert Urbina pick? Is that a gimme back, or was this a weird night at the office?
I had it as a weird night at the office, yeah. Derick. I mean, this is how the fight game goes. You're beating somebody up all day and you catch a left hook to the chin. You go down. It is what it is. You got to give it to Chuck Buffalo. He fought a hell of a fight. I think you run this one back 10 times, though. Gilbert Urbina wins the majority.
It's tough. The way that he fought last night, I don't know if that's the case, honestly. You know what I mean? That's one that I want to get back, but I do think that the preparation was correct. Now, I'm not going to make any excuses right here. I picked Roman Dolidze. That was the pick. We went down bad on that one. But I did preface by telling you guys, I thought Imavov was the pick for the sake of our competition. Have to go Dolidze. But you don't put your name behind the pick unless you think there's some chance that they could pull an upset. We got a lot to talk about, AJ, so we're going to hit back on that one. But you win the week, 4-1, hit on the prop. I hit on my prop as well, and that's what I'm really excited to talk about. So let's bring that up. AJ, come on. McCann, Belbitsa, not to go the distance, plus 195. Hit, baby. Let's go. Come on. Actually, hold on. Give me this. I got to clap because the way this fight ended was so perfect with your prediction. Talk about it, brother. Take your victory lap.
Man, I was telling you, folks, this right here, did not go the distance. Yeah, plus 195, but I said it in the pre-show, folks. If you're willing to bet on Molly McCann, it was something like plus 230 or something on the finish on the exact same prop. Molly McCann showed up. I was excited to see it happen, man. And when you rip somebody's, basically dishinge somebody's arm, nothing but a fun night for the other fighter, man. So yeah, no, this was a huge pick. I hope you guys made some money. I hope you listened. And if you did, you need to hit that in the comments. Make sure other people know, because we're out here winning money. And even on Derick's prop block, man, Luana, Carolina had a hell of a fight. Derick, tell me about it.
Bro, I'm in the same boat as you. It's just like when you see something in the film, when you see something and you look at the odds makers and you're like, this is not quite lining up. Let's take advantage. Let's hit. I figured Stoliarenko, if she's going to win, she's going to submit Luana Carolina, and it's going to come early. Well, there were submission threats throughout the entire fight. But the point is, Carolina, aside from going viral from getting knee barred by Ariane Lipski, she don't get submitted much, man. Cashed in on the plus 115 underdog. 3 in a row for me to start off the year. 2 in a row for you, AJ. I love our odds. I love our prospects. We're not going to take any more time victory lapping. Let's jump into main card breakdown, brother. Let's get it.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. So we jump straight from the money making, straight from the victory lap to an actual breakdown of these fights. And again, I just kicked us off by giving an interesting analogy that I heard between Paul Craig and Roman Dolidze. We'll talk about Imavov. We'll jump straight into it. So AJ, without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, man. So let's revisit this conversation, right? Without offensive wrestling, it makes it very difficult if you're primarily a grappler who does have some knockouts on their record, but if you're primarily a grappler, it makes it very difficult to get the fight where you want it to be early on in the fight. So when he got the opportunity, Roman Dolidze couldn't take advantage of a ground game approach until round 4, right? But what do you think he felt in there, AJ? That's my big question. He had to have felt something that made him say, you know what, man, if I go for this takedown, Imavov can maybe neutralize some of my grappling right there. I'm going to get more tired, and then it's a war of attrition. Did you think that was going on? Did you see something else during the fight? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely, Derek. And I think all of it really started to play off that round 1 whooping that Dolidze was taking. And I got to say, credit to Urbina on this one, because he let it go enough to where Roman Dolidze, he looked like he was getting back in or at least surviving a little bit. So I got to give a lot of credit to Urbina on that one. But I do think that first round 1 and the gas tank depletion really started to get with Dolidze. And then when he pushing up Imavov against the fence, not only does he have the speed disadvantage, he's tired, but then he starts to feel like, man, I guess this guy's actually a little stronger than I thought. I don't feel comfortable shooting to the hips, getting to the knees, putting him down, because if this guy gets back up, my gas tank is completed. I almost got finished on round 1. I do think there was a lot of that kind of game going in to be played against Dolidze, especially when you see him, and we've talked about this before, when you see him playing the hand down game, it's looking for a reason to just chill, looking, especially same thing in the clinch when they just had each other up against the fence. They were just looking for reasons to relax and kind of catch back that little bit of gas tank, hopefully. But I do think that right there was kind of Dolidze's big downfall. That bad round 1, gas tank going into round 2. Is there anything else you saw, Derek?
Well, let's revisit. Let's talk context into the playing the game, right? Because as the fight goes on, a little bit of controversy pops up, right? So weird position. They're kind of in this, clinched behind up position. Dolidze puts his hand down, staring at the ref, making sure he is playing the game of I am a grounded opponent. I cannot be touched. And then Imavov straight up kicks him in the face, which I thought was beautiful. Like in any rule set, that would have been just a perfect, head kick. Watch your face, bro. Don't just be, caught lacking. However, that's not what our rules are, and then that was a moment where I thought, AJ, for a quick moment, and I don't know if I would have been mad in the grand scheme of his career. I thought Roman Dolidze was going to say, kicked me in my eye, I can't see, can't continue, sorry, DQ, right? I don't know. At that point, it probably would have been a technical decision because the fight had gone long enough, but you saw his ego made him say, I'm still in this, I'm going to fight. So he wanted to fight, he wanted to do that, he just couldn't get where he needed to be, which goes to show that what did I see in that fight? I saw Imavov, bro, just being too dangerous a little bit everywhere, being able to defend adequately enough in the grappling to set up his striking and still falter. This was not the Imavov that we expected to see, and he still picked apart Roman Dolidze. So this is the one thing that I wanted to point out really quickly. I'm going to bring up the big screen, and I just want to take a look at some numbers, man, because these were kind of, I don't want to say historic numbers, but this is some numbers that we should definitely look at. So total strikes, 154 for Imavov, 59 for Dolidze, 112 significant strikes for Imavov, and 34 for Dolidze, man. This was an ass whooping. This is straight up what it was, man. And this definitely showed a couple of character flaws in the game of Roman Dolidze. So what is more, before we move on from this, man? The betting, it went to a decision that's kind of what we had on par, unless we, thought a finish was going to come, and that almost came to fruition, but was this Imavov showing that if he can stay on his feet, this dude could potentially become a champion in this division? Or was this, again, Roman Dolidze, very hyped up right now, but should be more on par with the Paul Craigs of the world in respect to the division?
Yeah, I lean a little bit more towards that latter, Derek, where Roman Dolidze is a little bit more in line with Paul Craig, needs to sharpen a couple bit of skills. And the only reason I'm kind of against hyping up Imavov to be ready for the championship, we saw him take round 2 off. We saw him really struggle at certain parts, just trying to maintain. If he had all the opportunity in the world to get Roman Dolidze out in round 1, you take round 2 off, and it just seemed like he was really focusing on the fact that he has another basically, 25 or 15-minute round or 15-minute fight going in, another 3 rounds. You could tell that was weighing on him a lot. So that's really where I want to see Imavov improve in that game of being like, yeah, I still got, another 15, 20 minutes to fight. But if I finish this guy right now, I don't have to fight that. So it's that weird game because you dump your gas tank, you're going to lose. It's a whole thing. So I want to see Imavov improve in that aspect. Do you think that came into play at all, Derek?
100%, bro. I think that's what I was saying, right? I said, like, for both of these fighters, the other big X factor, who's going to get tired first? And they both got tired. Just Dolidze got more tired, But Imavov, yeah, what was his coach screaming at him? Pop your jab, bro. Like, what are you doing? Your whole entire offense is predicated off of that jab. Why are you not throwing it? You're landing every time. So I do think, man, Imavov's hands were too sharp. I'm really liking the way he's shaking up in the division right now. And one more look before we move on. Apologies that we're spending so much time on this, but I do think it's important. When we take a look at Nassourdine Imavov and then we just kind of take a look into his career, right? So the loss. He got the majority decision loss to Phil Hawes. 3 in a row, lost to Strickland, no contest, back on a win. I think that in the grand scheme of things, you look at it, man, like this dude, besides the big losses right there, I think he's shaping up to start making a run in the division. So let's just make a prediction. And you can definitely be on the other side of the spectrum. Like, that's totally cool. Do you think that 2025 ends and Nassourdine Imavov isn't a top 4 fighter?
Ooh, yes, absolutely top 4 fighter. I thought you were going to go for championship, Derek. There's where to have a little bit of pushback, but no, at 2024, maybe even 2024, not necessarily 2025. We'll see Imavov jumping up that rankings very highly. Top 5, top 4, I could see it, man.
All right. Well, big win by Nassourdine Imavov. A majority decision. They did give a 47-47 because of the point deduction, which came off of that head kick, by the way, folks. So, listen, big things in store for Imavov. It's interesting. I kind of want to see a Dolidze-Paul Craig matchup at this point. They're both in the middleweight division. Let's run it. I don't know. Let's move on, AJ, to the co-main event. Money Moicano. We talked about it, man. This dude is hot on the mic, and when it comes down to MMA, he is a mixed martial artist through and through. That's how he won the fight. Drew Dober had him hurt early, man. We know when you have a guy in front of you, Uber Chad, bombs in the hands, ready to destruct at any moment, that you have to mix up your game. You have to do something different. And Moicano went straight to the well with his grappling, with his jiu-jitsu. And the thing that I had a little bit of a bone to pick about here, AJ, is the referee, man, was a little quick, hey, move positions. I think this was Herb Deem or Mark Smith. I don't recall off the top of my head, but the point is he would get to like a half guard position, controlling steadily, a couple rabbit punches, and they're already like, all right, you got to work. And I'm like, yo, you want him to stand up so he can get knocked out. That's what you're trying to do. I was having a conversation with my buddies last night, and my question to you here, AJ, is do you think that even in the sanctioned sport of mixed martial arts in the UFC, there is an onus to say, hey, this is a sport and it's all fair, but this is also entertainment. So you need to stand up because we don't want to see a fantastic matchup like this buried by just boring, clinching, half guard, just kind of stalling in the grappling. Do you think that that's going into it at all?
Yes, Derek, absolutely. I think that the entertainment factor needs, and unfortunately that is the case. Like, it needs to be there because if you don't, you want to put butts in seats, you want to get eyes on the TV, it has to be exciting. It has to go. So I can see where the movement comes into play. But what that really means is it comes down to the fighter that wants to control and dominate to actually get that going. It is rough because I do agree with you. The ref was a little fast on making a move and making him switch positions and stuff. But to that same aspect, if Drew Dober or same thing on Moicano wants to keep the other fighter down, he needs to be doing damage and he needs to be progressing his position to keep that going. Because I'm all for excitement and the big flashy strikes and everything. Don't get me wrong, I love striking here, folks. But at the same point, if a guy is able to hold you down, that is your duty to not let that happen and to advance a position and really cause some damage. And at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for is damage, whether it is on the feet or on the ground. So I do think those both kind of come into play there.
See, one thing that I'm going to say that a lot of people I think don't understand if you have never grappled or anything like that is Drew Dober, oftentimes he held Moicano in this position that we call lockdown. So you're in a half guard position, they have your legs tangled up and they put their leg underneath your foot. So it's literally like you cannot get your leg out of it. So when you're yelling at the top guy to move, you have to advance, and you're like, I'm trying, but this dude's got my leg caught. There's nowhere I can go. What do you want me to do? It's almost the equivalent of when two fighters are clinched up on the cage. One person has both underhooks, and then they're just holding them to their chest, and they're like, you got to move. He's like, I'm trying, bro, but he's holding me. Like, what? I just think that part wasn't respected enough. But either way, this was a fantastic fight, man. This was bloody. This was back and forth. And folks, we can give you premonitions. We can give you the preview stuff, but there's a lot of stuff you have to capitalize live odds. At one point, right after Moicano got bloodied up, I looked at the live odds. He was a plus like 125 underdog. And I'm like, oh my God, live. Smash that all day. Y'all think Drew Dober is going to win. Drew Dober tries to do the lat drop. He does it unsuccessfully. Moicano gets on top and then he wins the fight very clearly. So I thought there was a lot of opportunity to make money in this fight. I thought Money Moicano did a hell of a shout out towards the end. He said he wants to fight for the SWAT team and kill all the bad guys. Like, shout out to you. But with that being said, aside from that, man, what's the prospects of Moicano moving forward? A quick sentence. Where do you think he goes next?
Ooh, I don't think he jumps up that much, Derick, unfortunately. I do think it was a great fight. There was a lot going there, but I think around the same area that Drew Dober's fighting in is where we're going to see Moicano fight another one.
Yeah, I think if he keeps talking big on the mic, though, he's going to set himself up for some real big opportunities right here. So I'm hoping we see something cool. I know he just did a major call out, and I feel so bad because I forgot who he called out. Do you remember?
No, I was trying to think of it too. I just remember him shouting the F word like a madman. Get excited.
The Hangman, Dan Hooker. That's who he called out. He says, I want to fight the Hangman. That would be a hell of a fight. That'd be an interesting scrap. Two tall, lanky guys. All right, big win by Money Moicano in our co-main event. And to get to some real action right here, man, this was the rebooking. The Rude Boy, Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikhov. And AJ, in the beginning, I was a little concerned, right? Because this was an interesting one to throw money on. Randy Brown was a heavy favorite, so there wasn't a lot of value in a money line ticket. Like at close, I think it was like a minus 285 favorite. There wasn't a lot of value right there. Salikhov came in strong, leg kicks, and I was like, oh, he's flattening the tire, AJ. He's flattening the tire. This is not good for Randy Brown. He can't keep the distance. But he read him like a book, bro. Hit him with that 1-1-2, double jab, right hand down the pipe. As soon as that happened, you knew it. You knew it was over. And it was sad that he had to give him the delivery punch, that little extra one on top, icing on the cake right there. But Rude Boy needed this. Cashed in on the plus 525 TKO prop. I'm a little upset because right before the fight, I did decide to place a decision prop, Randy Brown plus 125. I thought that was going to be it. But you love the win either way. We got the win on the board, Randy Brown money line. What do you think of the fight?
I thought it was great, Derick. Very clinical, very technical. And the fact that you hear Rude Boy tell his coaches about 45 seconds before, I see it. We just knew something crazy was gonna happen, man. And credit to Salikhov too, man. If you're gonna be popping jabs in the face all day long, the best way to counter it is with a nice leg kick, like you said, flatten that tire. The only problem is once you start doing it 5, 6, 7 times, Rude Boy starts to really read it. And man, he cut just the most beautiful angle and striking with that 1-1-2, man. Brought himself in closer to where his power is gonna hit harder. Still kept his guard high, bro. It was a very beautiful technical striking. I love to see it in the Rude Boy.
Absolutely, bro. And you take a look at some of these numbers, man. I mean, this was not a long fight, but you saw Randy Brown busy. He's throwing out a lot, but not a lot's landing. And that seems to be the case with a lot of his fights. Salikhov was a little more accurate on his end, but 9 of 11 on leg kicks. My question to you, man, is how far can Randy Brown get in this division with that long jab, that fantastic length, big power, if he does not check the kicks?
Not far, Derick, man. It takes 2, 3 good ones to really shut down that power, especially if you're looking to blitz in on the jab like Randy Brown does, man. He throws that long, lanky jab, but if you can't have any snap to it, especially with how a lot of these upper echelon fighters in the 170-pound class actually crack on those kicks, I don't see it being that fruitful at all.
Yeah, bro. I mean, that's the big thing. That's how you shut down the jab oftentimes, man, is you flatten that tire, you take away that leg, and now they don't want to put that weight on it. So now it's just a little soft pop jab, which is cool. It still works. You could still set up offense that way. But I'll just say this, man. You needed that type of knockout win. Let me just show it one more time because I was debating if I wanted to. Let's look at the last time that the Rude Boy got a knockout victory, bro. And you have to go down, man. He's knees and punches, 2019. This is why I think when he he got interviewed, you could feel the relief. You could feel it, man. He straight up was like, yo, listen, I needed this bad, bro. So he's, I think, saying, you guys have seen me, but you have not seen what I am truly capable of. And then he made the best remark, I thought, which was, if I could just show y'all what I do in the gym here on fight night every day, y'all would think completely different of me. I've always been high on Randy Brown. I think this dude is going to do some massive things, and I think he's going to win us a lot of money here in the future. So shout out to the Rude Boy. Muslim Salikhov, on the other hand, very valiant performance. But then again, don't forget, man, and I'm not using this as an excuse, 39 years old, though. You know what I mean? Like, that window is shrinking a little bit. So big win for the Rude Boy. Anything else on this one, AJ?
I only wanted to comment on that because what blew my mind, Derick, you have Daniel Cormier, no disrespect to DC, one of the greatest to ever do it. He said Muslim Salikhov still has a long time left in this game. The man's 39 years old. I am agreeing with you, Derick. I don't want to call him old. I don't want to use that in his excuse, but I do think the timeline is a lot shorter than DC let on.
Yeah, let's just say Randy Brown has that long window. Maybe he was mistaken. Maybe he switched them up. But either way, big win right here. Now, AJ, this is the big one right here. This is the diamond of the women's flyweight division. I will continue to say it. Natalia Silva just passed the biggest test, arguably, of her career with a pretty standout, pretty dominant victory over Viviane Araujo. Now, what was my big preface on this? The ticket price, the price of admission was just too high. This is a stay away. Do not bet on this. And I can guarantee you that if you were betting on this fight, you were sweating. You were like, yo, hold on. This is way closer. She was a major favorite. This fight should not be this close. And Araujo did what she needed to do to attempt AJ to neutralize the striking of Natalia Silva. But when she got out to space, speed kills. And she killed her with that speed, bro. Natalia Silva, give me a premonition of what is going to be the future of her career. Is this a future champion in the making right here? She dispatched Araujo kind of in a way where you're like, yo, like, this girl's for real. You know what I mean? What do you think?
No, I do agree with you, Derick. She put out a performance to where everybody put on notice that Silva is the real deal. She's up there with the serious contenders. Now, my big thing is, do I see her getting gold? Probably, possibly. It's out there. That's the option. But what I really see is her making a lot of money, staying in the UFC continuously, fighting the upper echelon, and maybe not getting there, because we see it happen all the time in the women's divisions where just that top five just continuously fights each other back and forth. But with the way Natalia Silva fights, I see a lot of bonuses. I see a lot of eyes on her, and I see a lot of media going to this girl, endorsements, sponsorships, whatever the case is. So right there, that's what I think is going to be the golden ticket. Maybe it gets you to the belt. Maybe it gets you to one of these in the actual UFC, but I do think Natalia Silva is going to be more so of a star that is being pushed up and being driven going forward here in the next 3 years. And if the belt happens, it's even better for her, but I do see a lot of money being made by her.
I agree. I definitely think that the UFC could capitalize from like a branding perspective right here. But I think more than her persona, more than her brand and her image, what speaks the loudest is her performance, bro. So let me just pull this stat up right here. This is what I thought was nuts, man. Look at this. Longest active UFC win streaks in the women's flyweight division. Erin Blanchfield 6, Manon Fiorot 6, Natalia Silva 5, Macy Barber 5, Ariane Lipski 4. This is a hell of a group to be in. Now, Ariane Lipski is the one where she's having a career resurgence, but like everybody else, you consider as either title ready or right on the cusp. Macy Barber's right on the cusp, but these two, that they should be basically fighting for a title next. So to join that company, I think is really interesting. Because if you take a look at what she's doing, she's dispatching people, finishing people. She wasn't able to finish Araujo, but who does finish Araujo? So the big question ultimately becomes here, man, if she just beat number 7 that easy, what's the next jump? You probably can't even give her 2, 3, 4, even 5, maybe. I don't even think you can give them any of that. Let me pull up the rankings really quickly so that, and we always do our ranking review, but this is not what we're going to do for that one. I'm just going to pull it up just so we can kind of see like where are we putting her, man. So this is regular flyweight. Let's move to women's flyweight. All right. So can't give her 1, can't give her 2, or those are my rankings. Sorry. Can't give her 1, can't give her 2, can't give her 3. I guess she could fight what if she fought the winner? Who's Caitlin Chikagian fighting next?
That's a good question, Derick. I'll pull it up real quick.
I really think that Natalia Silva is going to put herself in a position where she has no choice but to fight the biggest, baddest fighters of this division, and she's going to go on a fantastic run. But I do think that we're also going to see some of these moments where there's like potential exposed situations. Look at the first round of the fight. Silva was it just seemed nervous, jittery, had to get all of that out. Once she felt what Araujo had to offer and all that good stuff, she got comfortable in round 2 and really let the offense go. So we're going to see more of that. I don't want them to rush her up the rankings too much, but I do think that it's nice to have these fresh breaths of air, life in this division that has been stagnant for so long. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, Derick. Absolutely. And that's why I was saying the comment before, as I think she's really going to stay in this top 5 situation for a while, really shake things up. She's going to have to prove, that she can be in there with the big dogs. And to answer your question earlier, man, Caitlin Chukagian, the blonde fighter, is going to be facing Macy Barber here at UFC 299. So that right there, man, throws a massive wrench into where Natalia Silva is going to be fighting. Because you look at that, like you said, I don't want to give her number 1, don't want to give her Erin Blanchfield number 2. Manon Fiorot, maybe. I mean, that's a hell of a fight. Caitlin Chukagian's fighting Macy Barber. You got Jessica Andrade, which is a hell of a fight. This is going to be interesting to where she goes. And I was just looking at it, Derick. Manon Fiorot's fighting Erin Blanchfield, so she's booked up as well. It's going to be a hard road, I think.
That's it. And I know Andrade is currently booked as well. I don't remember who she's fighting, but the point is basically everybody in this top 5 is booked. Dana's already said that they're going to do the trilogy with Alexa. So Natalia Silva is in kind of a good spot because she could just play the waiting game, but kind of a bad spot because we know what happens for those who play the waiting game. So we'll see what happens next, but this was a big win. She did cash in on the minus 135 decision prop. And folks, if you were gutsy enough to go for those, and you hit, but just know that we chase value here, and there's very little value to be had, especially when you have the potential upset in Araujo right there. So big win for Natalia Silva. Excited about the prospects of her career. And let's move right on along to arguably one of my favorite fights that was on this main card that ended in a historic way. Alishab Khizriev versus Mahmoud Muradov. It ends in a no contest. Historic, eye poke, right? Historic in the sense that it happened so quickly. 11 seconds is all that it took. As soon as they started to open up with some offense, Khizriev hit him with the John Jones. It was a finger straight into the eyeball. It looked bad. Muradov couldn't continue. And AJ, we really don't have anything else to talk about for this matchup. Do you have anything here?
First punch, you throw it with your hands out, your fingers out. Yeah, you catch a guy in the eye. It was this was one of those ones, like you said, Derick. I was looking so forward to seeing two basically titans of smash get after it. And unfortunate.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't got anything else on that one. I hope they rebook this, bro. I thought that this was going to be a fucking banger of a fight, man. And then I just felt bad for Khizriev, even though he's the one who he committed the foul. Bro, I'm excited to see this guy. He's going to be good. You know what I mean? We need to see him back in there. Rebook this ASAP. All right, let's move on to the opening bout of the night. This was the biggest shock of the night here for me, but it wasn't a shock entirely. Gilbert Urbina comes out against Charles Radke, and Radke just puts it on him, bro. From bell to bell, it was an absolute clinic. Opened up with the hands. The Chuck Buffalo says, I'm here to put power on you. You want to play the teep game. You want to play at range. You want to skirt against the cage. I'm going to walk you down. I'm going to cut you off, and I'm going to hurt you. And that's exactly what he did. Now, I asked you this question in the beginning. I'm going to rephrase this question. I thought Gilbert Urbina did everything that Charles Radke does, except better. That's why we talk neutralization. That was for the film study. Clearly, I was wrong right there. Like, not even close. I was in another stratosphere. But sometimes what happens is you don't show up on fight night. Something is going on in the training camp. You get the pre-fight jitters. You show up in the gym, but you don't show up there in the actual cage, and your opponent capitalizes on it. Or your opponent got a chip on their shoulder, and they said, I got something to prove, and I don't care who you are, I'm going to put it to you. Was this an overperformance by Charles Radke, or was this a underperformance by Gilbert Urbina?
That's a great question, Derick, because I don't want to discount Charles Radke. I don't want to discount the Buffalo, man. He showed up, and he put knuckles to chin and did really, really well at it. Like you said, cut off the cage, had all the aggression, but I do think Urbina underperformed a little bit, at least in what he does best and what he does better than Radke, because man, it just looked like he was just a little off, man. Or maybe, and this could be the credit to Charles Radke, man. Maybe the power cracked a little bit, and Urbina starts thinking like, oh shit, I thought I was going to be the stronger one here. Ends up you're not the faster one anymore. You thought you had every aspect of this guy covered, and first punch you get cracked right away. Maybe there's some gameplay to be had there, but I do think it was a little bit more of a underperformance by Urbina going forward, man.
Yeah, I would have to agree. But then again, like you said, we're going to like double, triple down on this one. Nothing taken away from Charles Radke because he came up, he showed up, he flipped everybody off after because he knew that he was the underdog. He knew that people discounted him. We discounted him. That was a Bloody Water podcast consensus pick. So Radke, apologies to you, brother. You showed out and you did your thing. But again, I just felt from the beginning of the bell, man, I saw Urbina come out and it just didn't feel like it was the Urbina that we saw against Orion Kosi. But that's the other thing too, is a lot of people were saying, how much can you take away from that performance given how Kosi's career has kind of panned out, right? So maybe it's just a matter of you fought somebody who was actually on that UFC level that was like ready, that, you know, to put knuckles to chin, bro, as you just said. So big win to the Chuckalo, goddamn, the nickname Buffalo Chuck. There we go.
Buffalo.
Yeah, what I call him, the Chuckalo. Goddamn it. Hey, listen, all love to you, brother. All love to you. All right, man. That is ending our main card right there. But of course, the action is not done. There was still some more fights that we need to talk about. So of course, what are we gonna do? We're gonna talk about them. But before we do that, if you made it this far in the program, drop a like, subscribe. I mean, come on. We already know that the militia, the Bloody Water Podcast, 800 plus subscriber militia is ready to take over these towns, and we're gonna do it here with the prelim breakdown. All right, AJ, as usual, we have a little bit of a different way that we're doing it. Instead of just running down everything, I know there's a couple things that stood out to you, and of course, I want to know what exactly that is. So we're going to bring it up, and on the ESPN screen, let's showcase what we have. What's the first fight that stood out to you on the prelims?
Man, there's a couple here, Derick. The first one I want to talk about, man, I almost want to save the best for last because and that's why I want to bring up Molly McCann versus Diana Belbita first. One, it was my prop block. I told you folks it's going to be finished the fight is going to be finished before the round or before the fight ends, or however you phrase that, before the 15 minutes comes up. Either way, man, Molly McCann showed up and really put it to Diana Belbita, but at the same point, Belbita had a great fight to her, man. She looked good. She looked fast. She looked smooth. Just the power that Molly McCann can force and speed and pressure and everything is too much for people. I really like Molly McCann at 115. No longer the meatball, man. She's a meat stick or whatever they want to call her. I don't know, Derick. What do you think?
That's the Slim Jim right there, bro. She's the Slim Jim. Listen, Meatball, bro. It's actually surprising the amount of power she was able to still translate on over from 125 to 115. We knew that was going to be her game. That's her. It's her game. Walk you down, throw big punches. For Belbita, I really like that chin tucked, head down style. But the problem is, man, she is notorious for not utilizing her length effectively, right? She has reach, she has height on these fighters, but she gets in and she trades in the pocket, which doesn't really make sense. But the biggest thing that I was surprised about, and you gotta tell me, I know you didn't predict this, and if you did, oh man, that's fantastic. Meatball, she gets beat up on the ground in her last couple of fights and whatnot, and she says, you know what, I'm snatching arms right here. I'm taking her arm home with me, bro, as a souvenir. It's going back to Liverpool. Did you expect a submission to come out of Molly McCann?
Not one bit, Derick. I mean, I guess we could have looked at the history because Molly McCann has been putting a lot of work into the ground game. I believe her last fight, well, not in the UFC, but like in the last exhibition, she was fighting in a submission. It might have been submission on the ground. I forget exactly. But the fact that she's getting beat consistently on the ground, you can tell the fire and the anger that is the Molly McCann, mentality. She said, I'm going out there and I'm going to beat this girl on the best, on what I've been losing and what people think I'm worst at. I love that, man. And no, I did not see the submission coming at all.
And you were absolutely right, man. It was a Polaris fight, actually. She got a job done with the same exact submission, first round armbar. Now, to me, you go out to a grappling match, I don't expect that that's what you're going to put on your opponent in the next fight, you know what I mean? But she got the job done right before the buzzer hit, man. Beautiful, beautiful victory right there by the Slim Jim, the newly minted Slim Jim, Molly McCann. All right, I have a feeling that I know which fight you're talking about that we're going to save for last, so let's keep going down the line. What's the next fight that stood out to you?
Man, I mean, I hate to keep bringing up the prop locks, Derick, but Luana Carolina had such a good performance for a fighter that has been doubted by everybody who thinks that, or at least in the media presence, doesn't have a lot of push behind her, if you will. I thought this was a standout performance, man. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because not only did Soliarenko put Carolina in dangerous positions, but Carolina actually was able to thrive in them, Derick. Really showed out what she does and what she's been working on so hard in the gym. And that's why I really like this fight, man. Even I was doubting Luana Carolina for a couple times, man. We've lost some money on her. We've really had a lot of support going for her, but then she loses in her worst moments or her best moments, whatever you want to phrase it. This was a really standout performance, and I see a lot of good coming from Carolina in the future.
Absolutely, bro. And that's why I say you take a look at these numbers, and if you look at the outcome of this fight, if you didn't know who was favored, who was the underdog going into it, would you look at Luana Carolina's number and be like, oh yeah, she was a plus money underdog? Like, absolutely not. But this is the tale of the tape, and this is why you have to go ahead and, do that film study, so this is how these fights play out. Big win by Carolina. I think that this is definitely going to put her in a position for some more, higher acclaimed fights in the future, because Stoliarenko, she's got some finishes over some solid opponents. So this was a big win. If you don't mind, let's talk about really quickly, man. I wanted to bring up my sleeper right here because I thought it was interesting, and I just was curious if you had an opinion on it. So I'm not talking about scoring and things of that nature, but I will talk about scoring right here. Close fight, man. This was my sleeper. Now, it didn't live up to the violence that I was expecting, but this was a very, very fun technical matchup between two young prospects. And I thought that Landon Quinones, who used a lot of control time, which seems like it's not really getting counted these days, a lot of control time, a lot of dirty boxing, a lot of just dirty fighting in the clinch, but not in like a bad way. You know what we mean when we say that. I thought he squeaked out a victory, but they gave it to Markel Medeiros. What did you think?
No, I was with you, Derick. I actually thought Quinones did a little bit more, and especially a little bit more damage in those positions you're talking about. And this was a hard fought victory for Medeiros, man. You cannot take anything away from him because he did show up, but I do agree with you. I think it was a little bit of a squeak by. I would have scored it for Quinones personally.
Yeah, man. But it's like I said, this is like when you have a close fight like that, you're never going to call robbery because it really could have gone either way. I just thought it was a standout performance by two young studs right there. And that's why I say these are the unknowns of today, but these are going to be the stars of tomorrow. So even if it doesn't end in a finish, it's something that you should definitely pay attention to. How about this one, man? Let's move straight right back to your sleeper. Zhang Yang Lee versus Blake Bilder, bro. Talk to the people. You pinned this as a sleeper, and Lee showed up and showed out. What'd you think?
Absolutely showed up, folks. I told you, man, whether it's the road to the UFC, the Contender Series, Dana White and his team know who's going to be stars in the future, man. And this was, like Derick said, it may not have ended in a finish, but this was a hell of a scrap, bro. I even tweeted it out, folks. If you're not following the live tweets from me and Derick, you need to also be doing that, because I was telling you, Lee is a killer. He's going to be around for a while. This guy is so fast, so technical, man. It looks smooth out there. And going up against a gangster like Blake Bilder, man, he put it to him, man. And Bilder, credit to him because he kept the pressure on. He kept walking forward. He kept looking good. This was everything I expected it to be in the fight, besides the finish getting handed there. And Lee, he got it close a couple times.
That's right. That's right. I mean, listen, there was a lot of, I don't want to say controversy. It wasn't controversy, but there was just a lot of talk, man, where people were saying, I don't know if these road to the UFC guys are the same caliber as like a Dana White Contender Series guy. And I'm like, well, if we stack them up, what is the difference between Dana White Contender Series prospect and a road to whatever UFC prospect versus a looking for a fight prospect? Like Randy Brown came off of Dana White's looking for a fight, right? So it's like all across the board, we need to start figuring out what's the hierarchy. What do we respect the most? And then once it comes down to performance in the cage, that's what we respect. Road to the UFC, these Asian fighters, bro, these dudes are legit. These people all across the board. So big win right there. AJ, this is the big highlight. This is the feel good, but this is also the me eating a little crow, because I told you, I was like, why do I keep staring at this matchup between Temba Karimbo and Pete Rodriguez, thinking Rodriguez is just going to come in and just starch him? Well, I couldn't have been more wrong, because the grappler, Garimbo, says, oh yeah, let's not forget, man, I can hit you from the other part of the cage, bro. You want to come in, you gotta come in, and you gotta, you know what I mean, close that distance. He starched them, bro. And with the shot that he hit him with was such a, I don't want to call it a lucky punch, AJ, but I don't often see somebody intentionally decide, I'm gonna punch you, and I'm not gonna punch you with my knuckles. I'm gonna punch you with this part of my hand, and I'm just gonna club you right below your ear. I don't really see people do that intentionally too often, and he hit it right on the spot, just dropped him, bro. Equilibrium shot, you're done. Was this a lucky shot in a combo, or is Garimbo just precise pinpoint sniper?
I mean, sometimes Derek, you'd rather be lucky than good, but no, I do think this had a little bit more. He hit the mark he wanted to hit, so you can't say it was too lucky. But yeah, it was an interesting way to throw it. I mean, we've seen a lot of people actually try to use that club just because you're throwing a hook and you kind of come around it. But no, man, I think honestly, what this came down to me was it was just timing of Thimba Garimbo being in the right place at the right time and putting the hard work in. And unfortunately, man, Pete Rodriguez ate one on the button. It's anatomy. You get clipped in the chin, you go down. Tim Grimbo had everything in his life was coming to fruition. You know, the Rocks had the support. He used to be homeless. All this stuff that is the feel good story of Tim Grimbo. And then timing wise, man, you show up when you need to show up. You put the knuckles to where it needs to go, even if it's the wrong one. Either way, it did what it needed to do.
That's it. A win is a win is a win, as we like to say here on this program. And Themba Gorimbo, my man, is winning and calling people out. He said, I'm looking to be a champion in the year 2024. My man, I hope they give you like 7 more fights because that might be what it takes to get you to the championship. But I love the story. I love the charisma. And I think this is a guy you definitely need to watch out for. Themba Gorimbo, shout out right there. All right, AJ, take us to the best and the final prelim pour-over that we got. We know where we're going. Open it up for us.
Man, we talking Jamal Pogues? We talking Charles Johnson?
You know who we're talking. We're talking about the upset, the energy. Charles Johnson says 17-0, huh? From Kazakhstan, huh? Well, let's not forget, I already got a win over another Kazakh right there. And by the way, even though I was on this 3-fight losing streak, bro, you could stand with me, you can try to grapple me, you can do whatever, but you're not going to outdog me. And I think that's what this fight came out to, man. Who was the bigger dog? And once you start hitting that last 5 minutes, that last even 7 minutes of the fight, Charles Johnson showed that 14-6, that record does not matter. My man came up to get the victory, and he was not leaving without a win on his record. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the record streak of Azat Maksum coming to an end speaks volumes, and we need to discuss that a little bit further. What do you got here, AJ?
Man, what spoke the most to me, Derek, the change of mentality and kind of boisterousness that Energy had, man. He was in the first couple rounds, in first round 1, even into the second part of, or the first half of round 2. Man, Maxim was throwing punches, and you saw Charles G just ducking, man, scared to get hit. Look, really showing a lot of movement because he felt the power of Maxim. And then he comes back, man. That's why you never doubt the gangster of Charles G, man, or Charles Johnson, excuse me, Energy, because this dude, man, he really did pull something from out of nowhere. Like, I thought he was going to get beat up. I thought this fight was going to be finished in the second round by Maxim. Charles G showed up, man. I got to give him all the credit in the world, man. That is what you love to see, is that mental fortitude and also durability in the cage.
And what happens when you start approaching that last, again, 5-7 minutes? You got to do it on a 3-fight losing streak who says, my back is against the wall. I got nothing to lose right here. Let's let it all out. Versus a guy who says, that's right, I do have that O behind that 17 wins. I'd like to keep that. Now, I'm not going to read too much into it, but I say that might make you fight a little more conservatively. That might make you a little more tired thinking about the consequences of it. Am I about to fucking lose this shit right now? You know what I mean? And once they were reading the scorecard, you saw it for Maxim. Like, he was just like, is this really about to happen? Okay, all right. I lost my first fight. And I think personally, not to take anything away from Charles Johnson, I think that this is probably like the best thing that could happen to Maxim right here. I think this dude is going to ascend to a whole nother level. But as the Energy said, man, stop counting me out, bro. Don't do it. And we got to learn the lesson the hard way right there. I learned it with my pocketbook because I did bet on Maxim right there. So shout out to you, Charles Johnson. All respect. Anything else on that one, AJ?
No, man, shout out to Charles Johnson, man. All respect. Like you said, this was one you had to dig out from the heart. I love to see it.
Yeah, that's right. All right, folks. So with that being said, the final section of our program here today is to do a rankings review. We very briefly visited the rankings earlier, but we're going to jump straight back into a little bit of a different division. So, AJ, today we are going to be breaking down the middleweight division. The headliners, they made some movement. We need to talk about it. And let me go ahead and pull it up on the screen before I put it on the big screen. All right, so we've already kind of discussed at length the middleweight division, but once we pop it up on the big screen one more time, what we can see here, let me zoom out just a little bit. There we go. All right. So these have all been updated in recently, right? Mine's on the 30th, yours on the 24th. These are accurate for the most part, right? Duplessis is the new champion. The middleweight division's playing hot potato with that championship belt now. And what it comes down to is you have a Roman Dolidze who, even though he lost to Marvin Vettori at number 7, he had got the wins that he needed to put himself in a position to be a top 10 fighter. Nassourdine Imavov just clinicked the number 8, or excuse me, I keep looking at mine. Yeah, the number 8 fighter, Nassourdine Imavov, just clinicked him, right? So you would have to imagine he at least gets number 8. Or are we is that too much of a reach right there? I feel like it's very simple math. Like you just put him to number 8 and Dolidze, you got to push him back.
Yeah, I mean that's an easy kind of just switch that happens right away. The question that comes to my mind, Derick, is, and you might be bringing this up in the future, but where does Nassourdine Imavov really fit in that mix of the top 10? Because I'm just looking at it. You got the Hosmans, you got the Hermansons, the Jokers, which we got Joker fight coming up. I'm very excited for. Brendan Allen could Nassourdine Imavov fight off a Brendan Allen or a Paulo Costa or Marvin Vettori in there? That seems like a pretty hard jump if you're asking me.
This is my thought process, man. I think Nassourdine Imavov has all the skill set to comfortably get up to. Here's the thing, Marvin Vettori throws a wrench in this whole entire thing because I think he could potentially get a win over Vettori. But I think once he gets to Brendan Allen, that's when we have to start saying, oh, whoa, pause here, buddy. There's a difference between a Roman Dolidze and a Brendan Allen who's going to get the fight to the mat, and he's going to enter in with the big punches, and he's not going to get tired, all that good stuff, right? But then this is also, it's like we're living off of the legacy of a different generation in this division, right? Strickland, Adesanya, Whitaker, even Cannonier and Vettori and Costa, man. Like all of these guys, even though Strickland champion, Adesanya champion, but like everybody else, I really do feel like this is just like the 2010s to 2020 middleweights versus the new crop that is going to be taken over. So is Nassourdine in the 2020, 2030 crop, or is he a product of that last crop? I mean, what you'd have to agree would be this new one, right?
Oh, absolutely. This new one, Derick. Yeah, no, at 100%, he's going to be the guy that's taken over. And that's why I'm excited to see him fight the Jared Cannoniers, the Marvin Vettoris. And like you said, I do think Marvin Vettori throws a wrench in this one, but time will tell, man. And Father Time is undefeated. And that's what I like most about this one is we're going to have a shakeup eventually. Whether Imavov jumps up to number 3, falters a little bit, fights Bobby Knuckles, falters, jumps back down, gets one on whoever. Like there will be moves to be made if you're an Imavov fan right here. And it's only a matter of time till we see this dude's names literally in the stars.
So the final question here is, where does Roman Dolidze go? Like comfortably, where do you fit him in this division now? Is he a top 10 fighter after that performance that you just saw?
Man, I don't think so, Derick. I don't think he's a top 10 caliber fighter if you're only one-dimensional. And not to say Roman Dolidze is completely one-dimensional only, but if you're going to have very massive holes in your game that even where you're good at, you still can't exploit because the guy's just a little faster, a little stronger, whatever the case, I do think he drops down to like that 11, that 12, right around that Paul Craig, which makes for even more of a better fight.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I do consider him in the levels of the Paul Craigs of the world, so I would say 10 to 15 for sure, which is no disrespect. You're a top 15 fighter nonetheless, but you have to have a real interesting stylistic matchup to be able to exert yourself and showcase what you want to. So with that being said, folks, that is your rankings review after UFC Vegas 85 is the big one that we wanted to hit. And we made it to another outro, my man. All right. So, folks, what do we have on the docket? What do we have on the horizon? We have the Joker, Jack Hermansson, taking on Joe Pyfer. Man, be like Joe Pyfer. Interesting because, again, a byproduct of the older generation and elder statesman in the middleweight division. He's taken on a young gun, ultimately defending his rank and giving an opportunity for someone new to crack, these rankings in a really good way. Lots to talk about for the next run. The film study starts now for us so we can make you a ton of money next week. But if you made money this week, UFC Vegas 85, again, drop a comment, subscribe, let us know how you did. If we missed, let us know how you did. It does not matter. This is a army and we take accountability here. AJ, take us out of here.
Like Derick said before, folks, the militia's taking over. We're your favorite fighter's favorite fight show for a reason. And if you haven't figured it out, that reason is because we're putting money in your pockets week in and week out. We got 10 weeks straight left, folks. There's a lot of money to be made. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share with your friends. You already know the deal. If you've made it to this point, we love you, but you need absolutely need to share it with your friends. They don't want to get left behind. You don't want to be a bad friend. You want to win some money. You know where to come. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
I like money. I know y'all like it too. Let's go ahead and let's break some bread, folks. That's it for us. Catch us on Friday for the UFC Vegas 86 preview show. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. All right, folks. Until next time. Peace.